Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Q&A session of 24th International Documentary Film Festival Jihlava. My name is Pavel Sladký. I welcome you and especially welcome today's guests who are Ioana Grigore and Cristian Georgescu. Hello, welcome.
Hello.
Who are the director and the editor of film Take Them Into the Light, that is screened in the First Lights competition, and that takes place in Romanian mountains, and it's about Salvamonte, a rescue group and their work, and about mountaineers' life on the edge of life and death, we might say. First of all, could you tell us what is your relationship to mountains, mountaineering, and mountain rescue? How did you get to this topic?
Yeah, since I was little, I used to go hiking, and I still am with my brother. And my photography teacher from high school is the chief of mountain rescue team here in my county. And Romania was the last country in Europe that doesn't have the rescue dogs here, and he decided to make the first team with men and dogs, and this is how it started 7 years ago. And 2 years ago, I decided to start a film about it, and 2 years ago, I was thinking that we are going to do a film about avalanche dogs, but then we found out that there is more there. So this is how it evolved in the last 2 years.
Yes.
So, yes, you wanted to add something, Cristian?
Just the fact that I wasn't really familiar with either rescue dogs or Salvamont, but this film, when it came, it made me really aware of this. First of all, of this problem with the avalanche in our countries, that many people die per year, and that we need these rescue dogs. And you know, as for the mountains, I was just like regularly going to snowboard or something, but then it became a little bit more serious, and it makes you a bit more appreciative of the mountains itself and the nature, and the fact that you can't just go on the mountains and what you want, because you know nature will prevail at some point. So yes.
So I might simplify it a little bit, that there was certain respect to the rescue team's work already, but it deepened when you filmed this and when you edited this and when you did this film.
Yeah, it became more stronger for us, this feeling, because I already had those very special feelings for the mountain, but after I dig into with them and I heard those stories, very special stories, they are not all of them are in the movie, of course. I started to think more about it, and we end up making another film that we were thinking we're going to make. Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit more about your film studies background, or how the film is backed by university you attend, and about your co-working together?
Mhm. Both of us finished film school here in Bucharest. I have a bachelor degree and a master degree in film directing, and a master in documentary film directing, and Cristian in editing. And we started working together 2 years ago through another project, was my study project. And this film, Take Them Into the Light, is our last film in the school.
Yes, and it started while we were doing something else. So we were doing this music documentary, and we were just finishing it, and we also had to finish our school, and then this film came, and
We also already, this film came through between two films, our last film school and also our first feature film, who is related with our last film,
Yes.
and it was pretty hard to work at it and manage 3 films in different stage of production at the same time.
Yeah, I can see. Could you tell us a little bit about this second big topic, which is music or music documentary? Because as you already mentioned, it's connected to your upcoming feature project, and it's about jazz. So it seems to be a very different topic from mountain rescue teams. So could you tell us a bit more?
Yeah, this our first feature film is about, let's say, a hero who spent his life, dedicated his life to music avant-garde jazz. Actually, he saved all this music because he was raised in USSR, and at the 80s, actually 70s, he was forced to move to London, and there he decided to start the record label, and he was receiving magnetic tapes from all over the world, magnetic tapes, and he started to release them and um,
Show the West basically the music from Russia. I mean, Russian artists were sending the tapes, and he was mixing them, and he was releasing them in the West. So basically, he was kind of like a gate for the West, you know, for the Russian musicians who had nothing. I mean, no equipment, no.
yeah, and he was the only one who used to do that, and then he started to get magnetic tapes from all over the world, Africa, Japan, another Europe countries, and US.
Especially from the ones who had either like a political regime or some complicated, you know, countries, hard to get music out of, you know. So he basically, yeah, single-handedly saved a lot of this music that we otherwise couldn't hear now.
Yeah. So it's portrait of his, but through him we get to this topic of cultural exchange, of bringing culture of different or maybe problematic regimes to the dominant Western culture and so on. Am I
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yes.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, back to your film that is screened as a complete and finished movie, Take Them Into the Light. One of the moments in the film that might be shocking, at least to Czech viewer, is the fact that all the guys in the rescue teams answer no when they are asked whether they dig out someone being still alive. That's quite a harsh reality, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. When you are in this very big amount of snow, you have just 15 or 20 minutes to survive. There, after this, it's impossible to breathe, and it's very hard for them
To go up there and save them in time.
so yeah, in time, and also it's very hard for a human being to do that, and this is why dogs really make this process easier. But in the last 7 years, they didn't found anyone. So, but it's not impossible, but they don't have some stories like this.
The thing is that a crew of people can find a man trapped in avalanche in maybe a few hours, but a rescue dog can find him
In 4 minutes,
in
5 minutes, just one dog in 5 minutes, and
Yes.
10 men maybe in hours
Because
or
they can
5 hours.
smell, they can use their smell, and they can go rapidly, you know, through the snow. And this is the biggest achievement with this. And it's also about some hope. I mean, we were thinking that they found someone. I mean, but they didn't.
But it's
Just
very important for them to find the body to take it back to the families. So this is the most important thing to do.
Mhm. In some moment, also God as a topic steps in the film, because at least two of them mention that they can feel something in this work and in this area of high mountains, presents something that might be called God, or they even might consider it themselves to be called God. So could you comment on this a little bit, and how did you want to approach it with the film?
Yeah, actually, even though this is not a film about me, maybe this is the most intimate film that I ever made, because I have in it these two very important topics for me: the mountain and the God. Because I grew up in the mountains and also in the church, and in the process of making this film, I started to realize that this topic of the God is actually very related with the mountains. It's not very hard to put it there; it's already there. And also, the title of the film, "Take Them into the Light," it is addressed to the people that are under the snow, and to the rescue people who are actually take them into the light, and also to the God who finally will take them into the light after they will stop breathing. So this is how this is why this film is quite sensitive for me, because I have those personal relations with the topics.
This subject came a bit later because basically we edited the film while we were still shooting, and maybe this is something to cover, because it's really challenging to edit and do a rough cut while you are still shooting, because you are getting all this material and some shots are there and then you have to move them and place the new material. For example, our introduction and the guy who talks about God, they were the last to be filmed. I mean, they came in the third filming, and then we edited for like 3-4 months and then it was over, but we had lots of it already done, you know. So then we realized, okay, we have this guy who is talking about God, and then we have this guy who doesn't believe in God because he lost his friends and so on. And then we thought about this and doing this approach towards spirituality and religion. And because, as Ioana said earlier, in the beginning it was just really about dogs and avalanche. Yeah, I mean, it was a bit more technical, a bit more informational, but then this was the beauty of it, that it grew in something more profound.
Yeah, the film that we started 2 years ago, it seems to be our film. It doesn't fit with us, and after this, we find out that we have more to do with the material. And actually, the last shooting and this character in the first sequence, the last interview was the interview who decided the main topic of the film. This search that never stops, an actual search, and also this abstract and metaphorical.
This brings us to the very composition of the film, that in the opening sequence, you use the shot of a snowboarder with the GoPro camera going down, and then we see the powerful avalanche coming from the slope, and we can feel how huge is it. And then there are archive footage materials in the film, so there is more sources you use. Could you tell us a little bit more about it, about the sources itself and about the composition?
Yeah, we started with our shootings and also those GoPro materials from the rescue team. And during the last shooting, I started to think about that search that was mentioned, yeah, in the film, that last months, maybe 6 months, I'm not sure. And I wanted to see, because I knew that there is a VHS material cassette. I started to look for it, and this main character found it, and we digitalized it, and then we started to look at it for hours. And we had very hard weeks, because it's very hard to watch it. it's very hard to follow this process, all the months and weeks that they were.
It was like an investigation, really.
Yeah.
It was full of snow in the mountains. I mean, and they find stuff which is hard to watch. It's very graphic, and this was also a question for us: what to do with such a material, because you know, you think about like the victims, and it gets a bit hard, you know, and on the mind too. So.
But I think it's not very shocking to see the body there, but it's very hard to see it when you knew all the process behind, because we watch it for hours, and that's why it was very hard for us, and we had very weird weeks to process those archives.
And then we had to mix them in the film, which already contained the GoPro we found. So because basically the GoPro was the most important part, and then came the VHS, and then we had to do this, and the GoPro became a more character-driven footage for the second character, you know, with the two dogs. And but it was supposed, at some point there was even an idea that maybe we could tell the story through GoPros, or like a journal, maybe some kind of diary. But again, this VHS changed everything because it's completely another texture, another feeling also. And the VHS is pretty big. I mean, it's, I think, 7 hours of searching for corpses. So,
during 4 or 5 months.
yeah.
And the very first shot, specifically this snowboarder, that's and also a GoPro footage found afterwards, so we know that the guy is not alive anymore. That
No,
these
he's
were his
alive.
last
He's
moments.
alive.
He
He's
is
the
alive.
only one. Yeah.
Yeah, he's alive, but it wasn't a very scary avalanche actually. But he's alive. He's still alive.
Okay,
Yeah.
good for him.
Yeah.
But definitely this using of various materials brings some ethical questions, as you mentioned already. Like, was there something you decided not to use because of, I don't know, families of the victims or any circumstances that have been there in the case?
Yeah, we had the material in one sequence in our last draft, but then yeah, we decided not to put it in the film. We can see the faces of the bodies. You can't recognize the people, and also the family are not exposed. But then we decided to not put it there because it was not necessary to see it, because we already got the feeling of searching and also the feeling of finding someone, because we have a sequence where a dog sits to some snow, and you understand that you got the idea that there is someone. So if we use it, we were thinking that it's just for shock value, and it wasn't necessary for this film. It wasn't. It's just something. I don't know how to say.
Yeah, like something
Redundant or
like an artifice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And it was also too much because at the end we have this character talk about basically life and death and the death of his friends, and it was just too much to see then a body, because again it was really graphic. I mean, you could see it, how it's laid out in the snow, so it was really unnecessary. And yeah, we thought it's more powerful if we either speculate or just play on it. I mean, as from a cinematic standpoint, you know, it's much more effective. And it's also, this film is made like some kind of snowball, like it's slowly moving, and we could have done this, but it would have been some kind of docudrama, or I mean, I don't know. It just felt unnecessary.
Could you tell us a little bit what is going on in Romanian documentary now, like in regards to your work? Because Romanian cinema, of course, had its great moments after the beginning of the new century with this so-called Romanian new wave, with many big authors coming to feature films, to fiction films especially. But it seems to be that Romanian documentary cinema is now also having a very good time. We could see several films here in the Czech Republic, not only at festivals, but also HBO documentaries like Collective by Alexander Nanau, or Akasa at home, or Radu Jude's films, documentary films, and many more. So what's the situation now?
We have more and more documentaries, and I think this is amazing because it happened in the last, I don't know, 2, 3, 5 years, not more.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting and very nice the fact that also fiction directors are starting to make documentaries. They are not so documentary directors, but also people from fiction started to do that. And also people who didn't finish film school or directing film school, they finished, I don't know, cinematography or editing, and they are starting to search subjects and to document subject, and I think this is amazing for what's happening right now here.
And it's nice that like the subjects and the genres of documentary are getting mixed up, and it's very you can't label it anymore. I mean, you can see diaries, you can see archive material, you can see docudrama, you can see lots of stuff, and it's good for us because yes, we had some kind of tradition of documentary films in our country with, you know, for example, Alexandru Sahia, the studio, but we didn't have this. I mean, these films that are not really documentaries, but they can also be documentaries, but there's something else. So I think I think it's nice because there is this difference between fiction and documentary. I'm talking in general now, and I don't think it's. I mean, cinema is cinema after all, and sometimes, and maybe in our country as well, there was this view that, you know, there is the fiction film which is up here and the documentary which is, for example, we have like in the festival we have some friends, some colleagues from the film school who also have these documentaries which are shot by themselves. I think there is one from quarantine footage, and it's very good to see these kinds of forms, you know. I think this pandemic also mattered because there is all this journalistic diary types, which I'm a big fan of. This is, yeah, but it's nice. I mean, you didn't see this. I think 3 years earlier there wasn't this atmosphere, which is more free of doing documentary.
So there is bigger number of documentaries and greater variety and mixing forms like journalism into documentary with fiction film, with diary kind of movies, and so on. So this variety you can feel as something you could maybe profit from in the future.
Yeah, and also it can be inspiring for other people who maybe, let's say, they just want to grab a camera and shoot something, and sometimes they feel discouraged, or I don't know. But then you have all these programs. We even have a new master's degree in our school for documentary. I mean, this is also some new stuff. And I think it's nice because people want to make films, but they sometimes don't know where to start. But they don't know that it's not important to have a big crew and all this education, or, you know, to start doing something. You can just go borrow or buy a camera and film your own life, and it might get interesting on screen or while you edit, or, you know. So it's nice.
And what's the situation now in Romania in terms of this coronavirus crisis? Like in regards to filming, continuing with your work, with your studies, and with continuing with your project?
Yeah, we have more and more cases every day. The school is online, just online. We finished our school actually last year. We are working on this feature film, our first feature film. So we have to shoot just outside the country, in Russia, England, including Germany and USA. So it's very hard for us. So
Yes,
actually
we-
impossible to do that right now. We are just trying to work with the material that we already shoot in the last 2 years and edit some sequence. And I don't know, we'll see when we will be able to shoot more. It's very hard to predict that.
Yeah, and I think in the beginning there were some films that were caught off guard, let's say, because of this pandemic. But now, I mean, I don't want to speak for someone else, but movies are still there, some of them, and yeah, I think if they have to shoot, especially for fiction, I think it's easier because we can shoot, we can have like film sets with mask and stuff, but in our case, for example, it's a lot harder because we have to get out and we cannot, and we have to stay in quarantine and we cannot afford this. So I hope the others are getting through this. I don't know. I hope they can do their films. If you are caught in the editing phase, I think it's good because you don't have anything else to do, so you just stay in the house and edit. So
Lockdown in editing room. That's
Yeah.
not that bad.
yeah, it's not bad at all.
Yeah. Anyway, good luck with this project and with this travel needs and all this stuff. Before we will slowly close this Q&A, I have to ask again our attendees and our viewers, if you get some questions, don't hesitate. Ask via this raise hand button, or use the Q&A button and ask the question before we will wrap it up. But I wanted to add that in this coronavirus situation, you still can go out. You can go out to the mountains, right?
That's
Yes.
right. Yeah.
Yes.
So we might maybe think of some continuing of this topic in your work if you're gonna be restricted to the nature and being somewhere outside in Fagarash or Kaliman or elsewhere in the mountains.
But it's gonna be our GoPro now. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for bringing your film to J.hlava International Film Festival. Thank you for this Q&A. Good luck with your Ex Oriente project. We have already been discussing in this Q&A, and yeah, good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
having us.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.